It's a widely known social problem that there are many people, even in developed countries, who are unable to borrow from the banking sector if they want to support themselves and their families from an independent activity. This results from the fact that the satisfaction of these loan requirements is too risky, and due to the small amount of the credit required, it is not profitable for the banks. An excellent tool to tackle this problem is to ensure greater access to microcredit through so-called microfinance institutions. Can this microfinance sector be developed? Can the positive social impact of microcredit programs be enhanced? Within the ATM for SMEs project funded by the European Union's Interreg Europe program, we launched a large-scale exchange program to examine how access to microcredit in Europe can be improved and how the positive social impact of these programs can be increased. We have collected and examined a large number of practices to select good practices that can be used as references by European, national and regional authorities to promote social and financial inclusion. It was an important objective for us to include microfinance in regional or national policies as an effective business development tool. In the first 3 years of the project, the partners learned about good practices aiming at the improvement of access to microfinance, and important European Union level summary studies were made. During the learning process, we managed to establish professional contacts that are not only relevant to regional decision makers. In order to maximize the positive social impact of microfinance, such as promoting self-employment, important knowledge, and results must be taken into account by decision makers at national and EU level. Microfinance is a very effective business development tool for society, but in order to maximize its positive impact, it is necessary to follow the most important professional guidelines so that it can take its rightful place in programs facilitating social inclusion and employment. We would like to raise awareness about this important knowledge with the help of our film. 10 organizations from 8 countries participated in the project. During the first intensive phase of the project, we had workshops and thematic workshops to examine good practices related to microfinance gathered by the project partners. The effectiveness and sustainability of microfinance programs was the focus of the workshop and study trip organized by the German KISS in Offenbach. According to the Tokyo Declaration of the World Academies of Science published in 2000, sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. One of the most important requirements of the idea of a sustainable society is social justice, which is based on ensuring equal access to opportunities. That is why it's always important to keep in mind that public funds earmarked for microfinance should promote social return. It's important that the authorities shouldn't impose such financial conditions on the sector that cannot be satisfied. Now, let's look at the activities of the German KISS from the perspective of a client.
We grew up with this amazing shop, which my grandma started after the war in the backyard. In this colonial goods store, you could buy sour cabbage with pork ribs, the first baking chocolate, and children came over to get a Bluna lemonade. My grandma ran this shop for a long time and closed it at the end of the 80s due to her age. We didn't know what to do with it, so the shop was closed as it was and remained part of the house, but we kept dreaming about it. I had been working in my job for a long time. Then there were some changes, and we were told to reduce our working hours. I was never totally passionate about this job anyway, and in addition, I used to work for the fair in Frankfurt and found happiness in decorating. In this context, we had an idea. We still have the shop location, we have to revive it. This was the initial idea.
Da kam uns eigentlich die Idee, die Räumlichkeiten sind vorhanden, wir müssen den Laden wieder beleben. Das war so unsere Grundidee eigentlich, ja. Wir sind zu unserer Hausbank gegangen.
We went to my local bank, where I had had an account since I was a little girl. There we presented our idea of opening up the shop again. At the beginning, everything sounded fine, and they suggested us to apply for the KfW funding program. We went home with a lot of information, but actually we had more questions than before. I wasn't aware of the fact that my shop idea was more seen as a hobby than as a business idea, since I was still working. They told me to give up my current job to better focus on the shop. Right from the beginning, they claimed that the shop was more like a hobby than a serious business idea for me, and the funding we needed was too little for them anyway. We needed about 50,000 euros for the reconstruction of the shop, the first establishment and the first goods. This was the initial idea. They were only willing to talk to us starting from an amount of 200,000 euros. They also didn't like the concept we had, since we are and always will be a small shop. We don't have the slightest intention of expanding or opening up branches. Having this shop is a matter that is very close to my heart, and I don't want to fit into the needs and rules of the banks. This was the first time we thought about giving up. Completely honest, we talked about it with our closest friends. Our local bank told us that they would not give us a loan. The KfW told us that we were too small to be their clients. We didn't know where else to ask for money. They refused it immediately. I've been running my shop for already 10 years now, and we haven't received a single cent from them in all those years.
Kein Cent. Also ursprünglich haben wir
Initially, we wanted to establish a shop where everybody feels good. People can come in and find something nice, for example, decoration or flowers. There was also the idea of having a little cafe. We were too naive and thought that there would be no major issues with opening up the shop again, since it had already existed before. Unfortunately, we soon learned the truth. The authorities upset all our plans. Even though the shop was existing for more than 50 years, the regulations changed and the shop didn't fit in anymore. We were told to buy imaginary parking spaces for around 18,000 euros. A single parking space here in Mülheim is around 6,000 euros. We could not provide those parking spaces since it's located in a backyard. This is when we noticed for the first time that our idea would not be realized so easily.
Die Finanzierung von Unternehmen.
Financing entrepreneurs is something banks could manage rather easily as long as the entrepreneurs can provide typical standard collateral and other credit enhancements.
Dazu ist es notwendig.
Also, it is important that entrepreneurs have a good history with their bank, that bankers know the entrepreneurs, their business, and are able to evaluate the potential of the business. But if all this is not the case, and we are talking, for example, about young businesses, more exotic new business ideas, or we can talk about social businesses, for example, that is not really anchored, and banks find it rather difficult to provide access to finance. And exactly for those cases, alternative financial instruments are needed. Also, we need financial instruments that can be used especially for small and medium-sized enterprises to enable growth, to allow for investments and job creation and investments in technology.
Das Land Hessen.
The state of Hessen is pretty advanced, and in cooperation with the Regional Public Development Bank, they have developed a rather differentiated and broadened portfolio to address those needs. These products are quite clearly aligned with typical banking principles. Also, the loan decision follows the principles. But as mentioned earlier, small businesses or more exotic businesses will find it extremely difficult to access those products. And if we think about the potential we find at universities, where many people think about setting up a business but do not have a convincing track record and cannot win over bankers with their balance sheet, we have to acknowledge that the products offered might not be sufficient or access to finance is simply too difficult.
Die Lösung war ganz klar, Kids, die Mikrofinanzierung.
The solution definitely was KISS and microfinance. It was a fortunate coincidence that we heard about KISS. At the beginning, it seemed too good to be true when someone told us, first the people and then the numbers. We wanted to have an amount of around 10,000 euros in order to restructure our concept and provide an event service. We needed 10,000 euros to finance this concept and ensure the further existence of the shop. The application process was very easy. We went to KISS in Offenbach and we needed 3 guarantors. First, I thought that it could be difficult to find 3 people within my group of friends who support our shop and our concept. This was the biggest obstacle for me. It turned out not to be an obstacle at all. We needed 3 guarantors and ended up with 7 or 8 people who wanted to support us. Also, we had to present our financials, which was no big deal at all. After this, they called all our guarantors and asked them if they were willing to support us. I haven't expected that getting a loan could be so easy and so amazing. The contact with KISS is great, and I would go there over and over again. KISS and its microcredit saved our shop.
Jederzeit wieder. Also die Mikrofinanzierung hat uns unseren Laden gerettet.
The most important learning for us was really to see how the other partners of the project implement really innovative solutions to support entrepreneurs locally in their regions very successfully. So there was a wealth of suggestions how we in Offenbach could improve our support for really entrepreneurs who have the potential to create jobs and to create sustainable businesses. That was really very helpful. And let me just say, it is really interesting to see how other countries use microfinance not only to support underserved communities, but also use it really for a very concrete political purpose, and that is to support entrepreneurs and strengthen their local economy. Locally, we reached out to a new focus group. So we tried to attract, for example, students from universities who are interested in setting up a business. This new generation needs a new form of support. They're interested more in mentorship, not so much in training. Basically because there's so much available these days. If you go on the internet, you find really a wealth of information, but especially these young, talented people find it difficult to apply that knowledge. And for that, we need a very targeted support mechanism. And within the scope of this project, we were able to develop this methodology, a new methodology. Also, we were able to develop new financial instruments, which are more targeted to the needs of these young, talented people. In the future, I would like to see some activities more on a political level, so that we have a better legal framework. So we should take into consideration that microcredit, for example, is provided for profit, but also we have a non-profit purpose. So this is really focused on underserved people, for example, but also to strengthen the local economy. And currently the regulation we have is basically for profit-orientated service provider. So my suggestion is that we address that topic properly and find very good solutions for the non-profit sector as well.
Our Italian partner, the managing authority of the Sardinian region, organized a study trip in Cagliari, which focused on social outreach of microfinance and mitigating the negative effects of financial exclusion. During the study trip, we made a field visit to one of the clients called Emanuela, funded by Kopfin. Let's look at her story as well.
Mi chiamo Emanuela e sono presidente della cooperativa Palmares.
My name's Emanuela, and I'm the president of a cooperative called Palmas Res. At the end of 2012, I and my colleague Simona decided to start a new business. I'm a professional trainer, She is a psychologist. Over the years, thanks to our working experience, we had developed a professional identity and we wanted to follow a dream, which was to establish ourselves within our town with a new business idea in the social services sector. Our idea was to combine social and educational activities and school support service in a single activity. In January 2013, we founded our cooperative, and in October of the same year, we opened our office, where we currently provide the children daycare service and the school support service. Our business started in October 2013, and our main idea was to create services for citizens and families, especially for those who have children to manage. Secondly, our main motivation included the creation of jobs as well as the provision of a set of services, including specific professional skills. When we decided to ask for a loan to start our business, we contacted Liga Coop, our trade association, which sent us to COPFIN, and it explained the conditions to access the loan. The conditions seemed to be favorable because, first of all, the guarantees that are normally required by a bank were not requested. We did not have such guarantees as we were starting from scratch. Furthermore, one of the most interesting aspects for a new business was the interest rate, which was lower than those applied by commercial banks. Last but not least, this loan offered us the opportunity to renegotiate it in case of problems. And we did it as we needed to reshape the mortgage repayment. When we got the loan, of course we were all very satisfied because it was the condition without which we couldn't have undertaken or started our business. It was like a dream come true, and it really allowed us to realize our plans. We are very satisfied with the microfinance services we got. First of all, with their constant willingness to listen to our needs. They were quite quick even when we needed to modify the repayment of the loan once it started. They are always ready to answer our questions. Me and my partner weren't business experts before stepping on this path, and they always provided us with all the information we needed. The initial objectives of our cooperative, such as creating services and jobs within the town, have all been achieved. Moreover, after the assessment of the citizens' needs, we realized that there are other objectives that we want to achieve in the future. We are planning to develop services for individuals, especially disabled people. We really like the idea, which we are working on and planning at the moment, to talk about social inclusion, even in the professional world of the disabled. A dream would be to create, for example, a business managed entirely by disabled persons. We also have in mind the older generation. In our little town, this age group is a little bit neglected. Therefore, among our projects, there is also the idea to implement activities targeting this category of people.
For Sardinia region, there have been so many benefits from the participation to the project. For example, we have a clear overview of the microfinance policies in all Europe, thanks to all the partners. And now we can draw our actions and our measures with the direct knowledge of what other countries are doing with this respect. There is another added value that comes from networking with the partners. From this experience, we can build up other projects, we can build up other paths and work together with European partners.
We can say that microcredit is an effective solution for the clients of the different partners. But what do we actually call microcredit?
Microcredit is a loan of small amount granted to financially or socially excluded people. These people don't have adequate access or have no access at all to the funding sources provided by commercial banks. The main objective of microlending is to have positive social impact which can be achieved by setting up and expanding micro-enterprises and creating new jobs. It is also important that this lending activity should be coupled with effective mentoring services and the provision of assistance.
The study trip organized by Microfinance Norway in Oslo focused on social and technological innovation in microfinance. There were several events during the study trip. Several field visits were organized. Now, let's hear the story of one of the clients.
When I moved here, I could only work at some other place, but I have some problems with my health. I have migraine. We had nothing, no savings, just a bit for a place to live and for food. I thought I wanted to create my own job where I could work for myself and be my own boss and come and go when I feel like it. It was a very difficult situation for me all the time. I didn't understand Norwegian so well and I didn't know the Norwegian society well. We thought of taking a bank loan. We tried 3 or 4 times, but they refused us. We didn't have any collateral and no job. We are immigrants here with no security, so we didn't get a bank loan. I joined a course, a Norwegian course, but I told them I wanted to sew. So at that time, Drammen municipality just started an entrepreneurial training course with the assistance of Microfinance Norway. And we learned how to make a budget, how to do marketing, how to get customers and customer support, and we learned everything from them. We thought that we needed our own place, and we needed sewing machines, so we took loans from Microfinance. The first time, just 250 euros. But now I'm thinking, what is 250 euros? But then, we had nothing. I have been helping a lot of people. I have inspiration. And what I have learned, I will pass on to them. Many of my customers are immigrants, and I give them advice. So this is not just a shop, it's a social meeting place for women who need help and advice. So we created sort of a women's group here, and we are helping them.
This study trip was very important in terms of technological and social innovation. We appreciate the efforts made by Microfinance Norway to promote the integration of migrants arriving in the country with the microcredit facility as efficiently as possible. The next study trip to Spain was organized by CE Burgos. It also included a workshop on the involvement of priority groups. Let's look at their lending practice through the story of Javier González Castor.
I worked in a psychiatric hospital, although I had studied tourism. I have got a degree in tourism. During that period, I made the way of St. James, and I think that the destiny brought me to Castorredis, and all my beliefs and my studies were mixed, and I finished here, managing a hostel for pilgrims. When I did the way of St. James, I felt an impulse of being close to here. I was born in this village and I didn't feel really comfortable in my job at the hospital. Then I came here to have a walk around the village and I met the owner of the house. We started talking and he offered me the possibility to come here. So it was like destiny because everything was so easy. When I told my family that I was going to start this project, they weren't surprised at all, because they know me and they know that I am an entrepreneur. I run around and I'm used to doing these types of things. When you begin a business, I suppose that the first thing you should do is to go to the bank if you don't have your own resources. At the moment you get inside a bank, the operations are more difficult. I was searching for information on the internet and I discovered the microcredits of Soderberg. I went there and everything was really simple and easy. The conditions were affordable and, in my case, my own funds plus this contribution made it possible.
Yo a través de mi hermana precisamente encontré Sodebur.
And it was a good decision because I had a lot of facilities from the moment I entered the door. Everything was clear and easy, and as I had a clear business idea, the process, the business plan, or the funds, the part with numbers is sometimes complicated, were solved quickly. And it's really important too that being treated like a human made things easier.
Toda esta cuestión de números que suele ser tan difícil, pues bueno, se hizo más sencilla. Y luego también muy importante el trato humano, que siempre facilitó todavía más las cosas. Sí, estoy muy satisfecho y feliz.
I'm really satisfied and happy because, as you can see, everything is working. Besides, I love this job, so I'm very happy.
Creo que como he encontrado este sitio que me gusta y un trabajo que me satisface tanto,
I have found this place and job that I like. As an entrepreneur, my main objective is to have a good position, being a referent, and doing my best so that each pilgrim leaves satisfied. We want to offer not only rest, but also the support and help that they need. Personally, I don't want to grow as a company or have more businesses instead of having a good position, being strong and having a steady job, I think, forever.
Posicionarme y ser fuerte y tener un trabajo estable para, yo creo que para siempre. Y ha sido curioso porque tanto mi familia como todos mis amigos.
It's interesting because my family and friends have told me that this job fits me and they see a place where I'm happy. That is why it works, and I'm so happy. Wonderful things can happen here because it's not only a tourism business. This is a business where the human factor has a great influence and where you can see unbelievable stories.
Esto es un negocio donde el factor humano influye muchísimo, donde ves historias increíbles. Estoy realmente satisfecho con cómo ha salido todo. Creo que
I'm very satisfied with the results. I think that things run and work easily. Then we have to work hard and with affection, but I couldn't be more satisfied. From the first moment, I think that I was able to create a comfortable place in an old house which is more than 500 years old, which is now a hostel for pilgrims, and in my case, it's more than a business. To my mind, it is a way of life, for all my life.
Digamos que es ya un modo de vida y creo que para toda la vida.
Due to the particular circumstances that say Burgos is let's say facing in this project, we are trying to replicate more or less something we did in the past within the framework of another Interreg project, which is the former DFAS. So first we will try to replicate, first we have selected our own detected good practices, which is the one by say Burgos and the one by Sodebur, because it's something similar to what we are trying to do. But also there are some good practices from other partners within the framework again of the project that are really relevant for us. For instance, the one from the Polish partner called Cash on the Start, which reflects a perfect combination on training and financial facilities at the same time. So this kind of other good practices would be, of course, obviously included in our action plan, along with others also extracted from the project. There are, as always, many lessons learned and are many lessons to be learned, because, for instance, sometimes you have to realize that it's not that easy to implement the actions you would like to because of different reasons or different aspects that you sometimes don't take into account beforehand. For instance, since we are going to trying to affect or to modify a policy or to improve a policy, then there's a policy you have to take into account that the policy is made by politicians, and politicians, so there are elections and so on, so there are different aspects that you have to take into account. And also the reading of the space, the reading of the action to be taken should be aligned with also the environment where you are moving or you are working. In our case, there are, let's say, two main issues to be tackled or we are dealing with. The first one is that we have to take into consideration, as I said before, that aspect of let's say, political environment. So there are local elections, and maybe the people in charge of the policies, of the relevant policies, could change or whatever. So we are trying, or it's important for us to get that consensus among all the political parties of our community in order that eventual change doesn't affect the potential result of the project. And also another issue to be dealt with is everything in relation with competition. So we have the traditional banking sector around, so we have to be able to work in that environment where other actors that also are trying sometimes to reach the same targets than you.
We have realized, seeing and analyzing other project partners, that other regions and countries from Europe have the same problems. And in spite of the traditional financial banking system that is widespread in all regions, there is still a market niche for this kind of microfinances, especially when it comes to entrepreneurs and SMEs.
The examples presented illustrate that the social problem, financial exclusion, mentioned in the introduction can be experienced throughout Europe. It is therefore important that the authorities pay particular attention to financial inclusion. We have also seen that microfinance is a very effective tool to tackle this problem. During the project, further thematic study trips and workshops took place. We participated in a study trip and workshop organized by the Marshal Office of Switorski in Poland and by PORA Regional Development Agency in Croatia, which focused on microfinance as a local employment tool and the promotion of local microfinance funds and entrepreneurship initiatives. And what conclusions did our other project partners draw during the project? Let's listen to them.
This project is very important for our administration in Poland at the regional level, because Interreg Europe means sharing the experience, and microfinancing is very important tool, and we can now estimate how important when we see good practice from other countries. Like for instance, for us, very important cases from Germany or from Norway, when we see how they concentrate on the people that are excluded, on the migrants or young people that try to find a chance in life, and they offer this microfinancing and this support. It was very important for us to see different aspects of microfinancing that could be different good practices, not only giving the money simply at the local level. Talking about now what we have learned in this project, lessons learned, it was very important to see this complex attitude, not only thinking about money, thinking about mentoring, about this, that we should offer complex support, and these people, to be honest, maybe at the end wait for money. At the beginning they wait for the good talk, for good meeting, for explaining the rules, what is the chance to set up business, what are the main conditions to get this money. So it was very good for us to see, to prepare just friendly and people-oriented system, and the same we would like to transfer in our region. That's why we see that our action plan should be more complex. We should more express microfinancing in different aspects. We think about special tools for rural development, for startups in the meaning of our regional smart specialization. So we see different possibilities, and that's why I hope that our European funds that are dedicated to the region, from European Regional Development Fund and from European Social Fund, will be the best tool for the new perspective that we would like to prepare as the complex system for supporting entrepreneurship in the meaning of financing, in the meaning of microloans, but at the same time also combining with grants in some cases, and with complex advisory support by the voucher scheme that we also plan, and it was inspiration from our talks and meetings in our common project. So for us, very fruitful, very good, inspiring, and we hope to program our regional development in future based on experience and lessons learned from Interreg, and we have for this idea, we would like to show it in our action plan.
Implementation of the ATM project brings considerable benefit to the region. Foremost, it's a useful dissemination tool with regard to microfinancing mechanisms among entrepreneurs. It also provides information for the SME sector, considering available instruments, recognizes and presents good practices from different regions of Europe concerning implementation of that system.
So during the last 2.5 or 3 years, and all the study trips and the exchange reports that we have been doing throughout the project, so from Offenbach to Croatia, the main good practices that we learned are all connected with the non-financial help. This is the most important, I would also say, lesson learned for us, because besides the financial help that and financial microfinancing laws in the financial sense, they're also very necessary to provide to the entrepreneurs non-financial help, such as advising them with starting their own businesses. And also we could see throughout the study trips that we had that all the partners think in a similar way regarding this, because when an employed person is trying to open up their own business, the most important thing for him is to get the information. So I would say this is the most important lesson learned, and we also tackle this in our action plan. Of course, we have faced some difficulties regarding the action plan in the implementation phase. We will see now how we will manage to implement all the lessons that we learned throughout 2.5 years. Hopefully, the non-financial help and non-financial advising that we learned throughout the ATM project will be implemented even more in Croatia. We now have a lot of programs that are helping entrepreneurs with their business plans and stuff like that, but we hope that our regional action plan will emphasize this even more in the years that come.
One of the most important benefits that this project brought for Koprivnica, Križevci and Pora as an institution is definitely the promotion of entrepreneurship and microfinance, because the project attracted a lot of attention, not only from stakeholders of Koprivnica, Križevci, but also from some of the key institutions in the range of the whole Republic of Croatia, such as Ministry of the Economy, Entrepreneurship and Crafts, and Agency for Small and Medium Enterprises.
Sok újdonságot jelentett a projektben való részvétel számunkra, mint irányító.
Participating in the project was a bit of a novelty for us. As a managing authority, we are responsible for implementing the Economic Development and Innovation Operational Program. We can primarily support micro, small and medium-sized enterprises that want to carry out technology upgrading. So we were, and still are, a bit special participants in this project. At the same time, there's also a special microfinance facility for employment that has a social aspect. The microfinance facility for employment is the kind of product that we have identified in order to transfer the practices learned in the project and rethink the terms to make it an even more attractive product, since we targeted 2 specific target groups with this application. On the one hand, we can support the unemployed and inactive people who want to become entrepreneurs. On the other hand, social enterprises that would like to implement some kind of an investment. The project was definitely suitable for learning about these practices, and we hope to have a complete review of this application called EDIOP 8.8.1 by next spring. What is also important to emphasize is that we managed to establish a very good project partnership, which I think would be a shame to lose. And we hope that we'll be able to maintain these relationships either informally or bilaterally. When creating a new product, we can discuss and even finalize the product in advance.
Tudunk előzetesen akár egyeztetni, és így véglegesíteni egy terméket.
My name is András Nagy. I am the director of Zalakanti Foundation for Enterprise Promotion. The microcredit is a very important tool for the micro companies in Zalakanti, Hungary. It's a very important social financing and employment growing tool. We are dealing with microcrediting for a long time, and In this project, ATM project, is our third Interreg project dealing with financial tools and financing. And we are dealing with our action plan, how can we implement for foreigner countries like Italy, Spain, Norway, Poland, good practices. And we are dealing with this problem. It's very important to microcrediting the quality of life and how many new jobs can we create. And we are dealing with our action plan to apply for these good practices from these countries. And this project is very important for our microcrediting efficiency increasing. A very interesting good practice was from Germany, a very fast tool to microcrediting, dealing with the social methods for young entrepreneurs. The main lesson learned that the microcrediting stands from not only financing, so consulting, and the other one that the social impact of the non-profit microcrediting is a little bit better than the profit-oriented microcrediting. Thank you.
I would say that the main benefit was the fact that we got to know the different methodologies adopted by the partners of the project in the delivery of microloans to microenterprises and vulnerable groups. And also it was interesting to see the different mix of public and private funds used for this purpose by the partners.
During the study trips, we heard about a lot of good practices. We gained a lot of experience, which allowed us to share a lot of lessons with the decision makers. We are delighted that we managed to conduct an interview with Nobel Peace Prize laureate Muhammad Yunus, who is often referred to as the father of microfinance. He reinforced us that this effective tool is very much needed in our society.
Some people today misuse the idea of microfinance. They commercialized it. They want to make money from microfinance. And that's abuse of the concept of microfinance. You can create other sorts of financing, like creating social business fund and invest in the business ideas of the young people, and you become partner. So it's something you do together and make the young person successful. So it's a very challenging thing. Microfinance is good, that's already known. They should be believing that we are not job seekers, we are job creators. Not only they create jobs for themselves, they also create jobs for many others. Once you are in business, you keep on creating jobs. So the person who is sitting there as an unemployed person, suddenly becoming a job creator. He creates jobs for many people.
Throughout Europe, we could select from thousands of good practices and examples. It's very important for the decision makers to see that they shouldn't favor interest rates, numbers and yields when it comes to microfinance, since it is about people's lives and how they survive.
When we want to develop a tool to tackle a social problem, at first we have to analyze the problem and then select the most suitable tools to solve that problem. In our case, the main social problem is that there are a lot of people, even in industrialized countries, who can't have access to bank loans if they want to pursue an independent activity and support themselves and their family financially from that activity because banks are not willing to undertake the high risk related to such small loan amounts. An excellent tool to handle this problem is to provide access to microloans to a greater extent through microfinance institutions, bearing in mind the fact that the microfinance sector itself is not uniform. It has two branches operating with substantially different criteria and objectives. It includes both profit-oriented financial enterprises and non-profit funders, such as foundations. The operation of these two sectors differ from each other significantly. The European Union plays a very important role in financing the most successful microcredit schemes. We also see that if we want to increase positive social impact, the European Union and the national and regional authorities should also increase their commitment. When we analyzed the various good practices, we found that microfinance institutions often lose out on financial result by giving priority to social goals. That's why it is important that these institutions should be given more attention and support by public bodies. Social microfinance institutions should be developed through financial support provided in the form of guarantees, debt and equity, completed with subsidies and grants. For the better achievement of the social goals, complementary channels that diversify the traditional use of the EIB group for the provision of these instruments should also be considered in order to target the social MFIs. We must always bear in mind that the investment of the financial instruments provided by the authorities, i.e. public money, should promote social return, and we shouldn't set unrealistic financial expectations for the operation of the sector. If decision makers act accordingly, they will not have to wait long for social success.